Welcome to SoMo Garage, bringing you the latest racing news, sim racing talk, driver chat, and highlights from the SoMo Racing Leagues with SoMo Racing League drivers. Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Get ready for 1 hour of kicking the tires in the SoMo Garage with your hosts, Aaron Reilly and Paul Zotta. SoMo Garage starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to SoMo Garage. I'm Aaron Reilly along with Joe Mitchell and Paul Zotta. How you guys doing tonight?
Living the dream here again. So we'll see how everything goes tonight.
You kill me with that. Joe shot out of the cannon tonight, but it's good. I like it. I'm doing all right, man. Just tired, but you know, it's been a pretty decent day, I guess.
So another week down in the chase and a couple of new winners. How did the chase race go for you, Joe? I know Paul, you only raced Thursday night, but I guess we'll start with you, Joe.
I don't know. It wasn't too bad. I guess I'll go through all series quickly. I got involved in some stuff on Tuesday night, that really hurt. I'm in a pretty bad spot as far as that chase goes. The Xfinity race, was having a lot of fun. Felt like I had a really strong car, and there was a caution that came out kind of late and erased all of my lead that I had. And I think I've said before, I'm probably the only guy complaining because it helped everybody else. But yeah, it created this awesome battle between me, Adam Baker, Lupe Gonzalez, and Keith Mayota there at the end. And Adam got really tight, hit the wall. I got into the back of him. It collected Lupe. Keith snuck by and was able to get the win there. And Thursday night was another one trying to, I don't know, that's one of my worst tracks. I don't really like it there. I think overall the racing through all the series, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. It's been extremely competitive, and it's good to see that guys are really stepping it up, and they're not making it easy, that's for sure.
And what about you, Paul?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, I only raced the Thursday night series, and Keith Mayotto obviously won the Wednesday night series in the Xfinity, Lazy Days Racing Xfinity, and then he won the Thursday night Lazy Days Racing Cup Series at New Hampshire. I guess it was all right. I struggled. I mean, I haven't been fast this whole season, so not really much of a surprise. But I think I got a pretty decent finish considering for the car that I had. But I thought it was a pretty good race, though, man. I think we only had for 145 laps, only one caution that night. But we're coming to one more race before we, end the chases. And I don't know. I don't think I'm going to make it through the next round unless a couple of these guys actually make some real bad mistakes this season. We're heading to Dover, and you know how Dover can be. So I know some guys are definitely going to get involved and damaged, and I don't want to have to move on that way. But just judging by my performance this year, that's the only way I'm going to make it in right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way, especially in the Cup Series. I just feel like I'm off with speed. Definitely missing something. Ran decent in the Xfinity car Wednesday night. I think I ended up third. That caution did help me at the end, where like some people it benefited, some people it didn't. But Cup Series, I mean, I've had 2 8th place finishes now in the first 2 chase races, so I'm definitely off with speed a little bit, and I need to sit down and really just go through and try to figure out my settings, because I feel like I'm missing something at my wheel, or the settings, because I mean I mean, I've run good in the past, so I mean, I don't think. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is my talent, but I mean, I feel like I can drive. I just feel like something's not connecting. So hopefully, I can figure that out before the end of the year. If not, then I guess I guess it wasn't meant to be this year. But and that's another thing I want to talk about too in a little bit is speed and the front runners and the SoMo Racing Series right now.
Yeah, it seems like I don't know. They they definitely fixed the Cup car. I really like the way the Cup car feels now as opposed to the beginning of the season. And we've talked about it on the show a couple of times where it felt like you were riding on plastic wheels. You didn't really feel like you were connected to the track or anything. And they definitely tuned that in much better. But for some reason, I just can't get a handle on it. And like I was trying to think, is it just because I'm only running one night, a week now, and I don't really have that much seat time, and I know a lot of these other guys do, but I don't know. Part of me doesn't believe that. I just think there's something that I'm missing. And I know I talked to you about it a couple of days ago, and you were even talking about going to a different wheel, going back to your older wheel and trying that. And I don't know, man. I really hope during this, after this season is over, during the Winter Series, I can tune something in and become a little bit more faster next season, man, because these guys here are just insane with the speed that they got. It's amazing the competition that's out there.
You talk about a last-ditch effort. Not many people talk about going from a Fanatic V2 back to a Thrustmaster. So, I mean, you got to just try to find anything you can. I used to run really good on my Thrustmaster, and I feel like since I've had this Fanatic wheel, either I'm missing the settings or this wheel just does not work with me.
I think you just don't have the right settings for it because most of the guys that have those wheels, they really do good with them. So it's got to be that you just haven't found your spot on there yet, I think.
I think a lot of it has to do with that is finding what works for you. That's the one thing I've been talking to a lot of people about lately. I don't know. I spend a lot of time just trying different stuff, experimenting, and seeing if I could get even more comfortable, basically. I feel like that's the biggest key is you have to find a good setup with your wheel, pedals, everything, and all your settings to where you feel comfortable first. And then you can start to try to, push the envelope a little bit and try to pick up some speed. But if you're uncomfortable and you're not fast to begin with, if you try to push that envelope, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble pretty quickly. So yeah, it sucks to see it happen. I would love to see more guys be up there and making it tough, but like you said, I think some of it's guys don't have a ton of time. I don't think it's necessarily to practice or put laps in. I just don't think guys have the time to dedicate to getting into extreme detail with changing wheel settings and pedal settings, and people are always checking out other people's stuff and trying to see if that helps, but what works for me might not work for you and vice versa, so it gets tough.
Yeah, well, I guess this is probably a good time to talk about this, but the front runners, the guys that run up front making fast laps, the guys that do that, Joe, I mean, you're a good example, and I'm not picking on you just because you're here, but I mean, I mean, you've run good lately, I mean, the second half of the season you really came on strong, so you could probably relate to what I'm saying. The key to being fast is you have to have a good short run car, and you have to somehow make a good long run car out of that by not wearing your stuff out, in the first part of the run. A lot of these guys that run up front are good at that. Yes, they do tend to lose more speed on the second half of the run compared to the guys running in, seventh or eighth place. They'll start slowly catching them, but they'll never catch them by the end of the fuel run. So, um, you guys are making some tremendous speed on the beginning of these runs and pulling away from guys that are fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth place by 5, 6, sometimes 10 seconds. At some tracks. So that's really impressive to see. That's really where I need to work on, because I could literally be on fresh tires just like the other 7, 8 guys around me in the top 10, start second and be seventh or eighth by the time we get to turn 4. So I have a problem with that. I cannot get going at the beginning of these restarts and stuff like that. So that really hurts me.
Yeah, me and Paul were just talking about this the other day. I think that, um, I mean, like you said, like right around halfway through the season, it kind of became clear who was fast. And I think a lot of guys just put a lot of pressure and stress on themselves, just trying to figure some stuff out and trying different things. But I told Paul the other day is um, a lot of people have different approaches on how they approach the race. Um, some people just have a more conservative driving style. Um, they don't really like to get outside of their comfort zone. Uh, but in order to be up with like Keith and Travis, Seth, Adam, Lupe, those guys that, I mean, they've just been consistent, like fast pretty much everywhere we go. And that's probably why I wreck a lot, because I try to get out of my comfort zone, and it's tough, man. I wish I knew what the whole secret behind it was. But I think like at the starts of races, I almost approach it as qualifying for the first 10 laps. I just want to run as hard as I can and as on the edge as I can for that first 10 laps, just to try to break clear of people, and then try to dial myself back a little bit and say, okay, I need to let my tires cool off and just try to pace myself. I'm not that great at long run stuff. Some of those guys that are able to be really fast, but also save enough stuff to be in contention late in the run. I haven't been able to really put that together. It's pretty impressive to watch. It's frustrating when you're behind them. But yeah, I wish I knew the secret clue to try to unlock it for everybody. I definitely would. It'd be awesome to see 25 guys that were just crazy fast. It's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, and I don't think there is a secret to it. I think it's just kind of like what you were saying before. I think it's kind of everybody's different preferences, and you have to find what works for you, and and that's tough, but it does take time, and if you don't have the time to dedicate to it, then it's probably going to be even more of a learning curve to get to that point, because you've really got to just sit down and spend time messing with a setting, going out on the track, seeing how it feels, coming back in, and just keep on doing that until you fine tune what you got. I've been doing that lately. I just still haven't found, my, what I like, what works for me. I ended up jumping into, I think you may have put up the server Saturday night, Joe. I'm not sure, but anyways, I went in there for a little while at Dover in the Xfinity car, and it was horrible. I felt like I was just sliding all over the place, and I went into another good thing to do, and I'm sure a lot of people do this, is you go into somebody else's car that's obviously faster than you, try to find out what their line is, what the way they're running, what their braking points, where their acceleration points are, and try that. Doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but just kind of gives you a baseline. And I jumped into Lupe's car because he happened to be leading at the time, and I jumped in, and I tried to mirror what he was doing, and I mean my car just basically did a four-wheel slide all the way up to the wall, and I'm like, all right, so he's able to just dive it in the corner and let off, almost in the center it seemed like, and then get back on it and come right off, and you know I'm trying to leave the racetrack, trying to do the same thing. So it's just it's tough, man.
And that's a good point because I was telling Joe the same thing because I talked to Joe quite a bit about this because what was it during New Hampshire the first 10 laps, I mean honestly I was ready to pull it over and just park it and give up for the night because I just was so disheartened with it. But I look at the lines that some guys are driving. I do the same thing, I'll go in somebody's car and just get an idea and see, maybe I'm just not running the track the right way. Let me see how they're running it because obviously they're getting the speed out of it that I'm looking for. And my car it just will not go in the way theirs goes. They can get into that turn, man. They can run it in hard. They can fly out of it. As soon as I hit that turn, it just feels like I have a totally different car than them. Like as if mine is in the wrong server. It's just amazing. And we run fixed setup, so everybody's pretty much got the same thing. And it always baffles me is how some guys can take that same setup that to me feels like garbage and dude, they're coming lap me 2-3 times.
I can assure you that when someone thinks the setup feels like garbage, it's pretty much a general consensus. That's the opinion of everybody. It is tough though. Yeah, I know that like being behind Keith a lot. I don't know if I really want to throw out people's information. It looked like he was using a lot of rear brake bias at New Hampshire. And I knew that I was running more front than he was because he was killing me on the long run. But I could tell just the way his car like wiggled into the corner. Being behind him, it looked like he was going to crash every lap. And then it looked like I was going to crash every lap because I was trying to keep up with them. And yeah, it's just rough. Like some guys just they drive to the limit of themselves and not the limit of the car. And I'm trying to be as nice as possible. It's very hard to step out of your comfort zone. And that's why I have a very backwards approach in practice, qualifying, and everything. Like a lot of people go out on track and they'll say, okay, I know that I can run through this corner half throttle and make it stick. Well, I'm going to start there and work my way up and see where I can go. I go out and I'm like, I want to see if I can make it full throttle and make it stick somehow. And if I can, great. If not, I'll dial it back a little bit. So I know that my approach towards it it's very different from what a lot of other people are doing.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you have to try different things that work or might not work for you, but you don't know if you don't try it. But I mean, it's just it's frustrating. I mean, just to see these guys run like that, and like Paul was saying, you almost want to give up, but you don't. Obviously you continue on, but it's going to be a lot more fun when I get to that point where I can be competitive with these guys and run with them, and it'll be a lot more fun. But I mean, I guess that all comes with time.
And just to back up just a little bit real quick, like you were saying too, with the wheel, like I got this new wheel a while back. I'm running the T500. I've always been on the G27, for many years, and I kind of felt like I had that wheel pretty tuned in. But I never messed with the brake bias. I used to not really mess around with offset and ratios a whole lot. And it seemed like, last year, the year before, the lower ratios weren't really bad on the car. It seems like now The 14-1, 16-1 is where you want to be if you can get yourself comfortable with that, I guess, amount of wheel. And even now, like Joe was helping me in the beginning because I was always getting confused with the brake bias. But I started getting to, more comfortable with using the brake bias, and I definitely can feel the difference in the car. Sometimes it's not a great difference. Sometimes it's just enough of a difference to, keep you a little bit more stable. There's a couple of times where it gave me a couple of more tenths, and gave me a little bit better, longer run car because I've noticed lately I've had a longer running car. Even though it wasn't a great car, but it was a longer running, not so great car. Whereas before I had a not so good short car and then a crappy long run car. So, so I think as I'm starting to learn more about the ratio and the offset and the brake bias, hopefully through this winter with all the testing and practicing, I'll be able to tune that in a little bit better and come back out next season with a little bit better of a chance to, start running a little bit closer to the front.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I feel bad. I don't like seeing people struggle. I don't I don't want to see the guys getting discouraged over it. But it's like I told someone the other day that when you get up into the top 10 in our league, it's a whole different race up there. It's pretty crazy sometimes, and yeah, I think some guys are just more conservative, and it hurts them in a way. But I try to be an open book. I try to help people. Um, like I said, I'd love to see more guys gain some speed, short run, long run, whatever they're looking for. Um, I'll try to help anybody I can. I don't like seeing people get frustrated and discouraged about it.
You know what's funny, and you know what's cool that you mentioned. Um, it's amazing in one race how many races there are inside of one race. You have the top 5 or the top 10 that are usually having their own race. Then you got the mid-pack race. Then you got the guys, who are in the back or laps down race. And it just seems like throughout the whole race, there's a whole bunch of different scenarios going on and a whole bunch of different races going on. And you always seem to find somebody to race with, but it just to me, it always struck me as odd, even when we broadcast some of the races and you look through and you see like the certain groups that are always kind of stuck together, and you can tell the difference in the racing from the top 10 to the back 20, because it seems like the top 10, not so much that they're better than the 20, but I guess their cars are handling better, so they're a lot more together and cleaner, whereas the guys in the back are still struggling, so they kind of make a little bit more mistakes, kind of leaning on each other, maybe pushing into each other and stuff. That's just so funny to see.
Yeah, I think too that like we talk about taking the car to the limit and trying to drive it like that every lap. I think the all the fast guys have been inconsistent. I mean, it's just been that way. It's not really like trying to call anybody out or anything, but I think I've seen all the fast guys struggle with sometimes just not finishing races, or they'd have a bad couple weeks. But I think it's gotten better in the sense that the more situations, the more non-ideal situations you find yourself in, you react to them because you've been in that situation before. You know what not to do. So when you react or do something, you do it a different way than what didn't work previously, and you ended up wrecking. I think some of it is just experience, and I think guys get frustrated because they don't have that pace to really push to be up there, and it kind of hurts them. Basically, is what I'm saying, is like they don't know that limit, I guess, and if you overstep that limit your first couple times, it's going to scare the crap out of you, and most people don't really get back to that point again. And I don't know, it just hurts. And I think that's what lends more people to being conservative. Um, I think, like, the inconsistency with the faster guys, myself included, I've been horrible this year. I mean, I've had glimmers of hope and a couple wins, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm one of the top guys. Uh, I screw up a lot, and I think it's just trying to push myself every time, every lap, just trying to find that little bit more, and other people are worried about just staying clean and finishing the race, and I don't have that mentality. Like, I want to win. I don't want to ride around and be 20th.
So it's like checkers or wreckers, pretty much. You're either going to take home the steering wheel or the trophy.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that. Like earlier in the season, I specifically remember trying to run with the front running guys, like the top, probably five or so, and I was up there running with them. Everything was going good, but I was pushing it every lap to the limit, and I knew it. And a couple of those times, I ended up wrecking myself or taking 4 or 5 cars behind me with me. And I think ever since then, I've toned it back and took the more conservative route. But I think here in Somo, if you take the conservative route, especially this time of the year, it's not going to win you a championship. It might get you a few rounds into the chase, but it's definitely not going to win you a race. Being consistent might win you a race, but um, you have to be consistently fast as well. So you got to have everything working for you together. Just being consistent and finishing races isn't good enough. You have to be consistently in the top 5 to have a chance to, advance yourself, possibly to win a race. It's just, there's a lot, man. And I tell you, these guys put on a heck of a show every week. Um, Nobody lays down and lets somebody just drive by them. Everybody races you hard every lap. But yet, if somebody's got a slower car, they have the mentality to just let you go too. They're not going to hold you up um, unless it's 5 to go or something like that, and then everybody's racing real hard anyways. But just it's a lot of fun, and it's a challenge. It really is.
Every race.
Every race.
And I think it should be that way, honestly. I mean, I want to see everyone giving 100%. You know what I mean? I don't want to see teammates laying over and dying so that they can give their buddy a shot. I want to see people race hard and go for wins or the best possible finish you can, and I like it that way. I think, like you said, that's what it's going to take to win a championship. I don't think that you can lay over and let people go.
Yeah, and and that's also it's what helps the league grow. To see that kind of racing, it helps Paul with the broadcast. It gets more people interested in watching. So I mean, it has a positive effect down the chain too. It's not just the racing itself. It's as a whole. So really really cool to see right now that going on, and hopefully it continues and grows more, and we get you know a top 10 running like that, then a top 15, and so on. If we had a whole field running like that, can you imagine what kind of racing we would have? It'd be insane.
They'd be having guys having heart attacks on the track, man.
Right, Joe
We-
included.
We'd probably all wreck, to be honest. We'd all get mad at one another because we were running the same speed or something.
Yeah, that's what it's like now. I mean, you get into the top 10, and all of a sudden, it's suddenly a lot harder to pass cars. So
Yeah, it's funny, like when you're around like 15th, 20th, it's a game of like tenths of seconds. And the further forward you get, you find yourself, you're only picking up or losing hundredths of a second or thousandths of a second. And it's just crazy. I don't know. There's so much stress involved. I wish that we were able to capture that emotion and give it to the people watching, because it would bring a whole new element to it, that's for sure.
And especially now with the chases going on too, it's amped up even more.
yeah. Speaking of chase wins so far, this week Shane Papala grabs the Truck Series win at New Hampshire. Um, which is going to secure him into the next round. And Shane had a pretty tough season up to that point. I know, obviously made the chase and all that, but Shane had some pretty tough luck in the Truck Series this year, and actually throughout SoMo. He's got involved in some things, and all that, and it just kind of set him back a little bit. But that's got to be definitely, it's got to help Shane a little bit, thinking going forward that he's got a chance, definitely, especially in the Truck Series after that win.
Yeah, it's good to see. Like you said, he's had some really bad luck to break through and get a win like that in the chase. You could hear it in his voice. That was such a huge sigh of relief for him. I take part of the blame. I feel like I went on a 10-race stretch of I hit him everywhere we went. So I'm glad that kind of settled down. But it's good to see some guys really coming on strong here late in the season.
And Shane is the current Truck Series champion from 2016, and he's doing pretty good this time so far. He's got himself locked into the next round, so that's definitely going to help him there. And it'd be cool to see him pull a back-to-back championship. I know he's looking for a Cup championship. He'd like to secure that one, but I don't think we've had a back-to-back champion yet here at SoMo, so we'll still have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah. Shane's definitely looking to go back to back, and that's cool to see for sure. Right now he sits 10th in the points in the Cup Series, so he's got a little work to do. He did have the 2 wins, which helped him out a little bit, but I think he might have had a couple of tough breaks at the beginning of the chase in the Cup Series. So. But definitely, he's still within, contention, and it's only the first round, and being in the top 10. If he makes it to the advances to the next round, it all starts over again. So, definitely looking forward to seeing Shane.
And this week is Las Vegas, so it's going to be definitely going to be a good race, bigger track. Should be a lot more chances to keep it alive and get a win, so we'll have to keep an eye and see what he does there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good track for him, isn't it?
I think so. I think he was good there the last time we were there. I know last season he was on fire, so looks like he's stepping it up at the right time.
Yep, and as we talked about last week, Joe Mitchell got a win, the first win in the Cup Series chase, so that's pretty cool. And Keith Miato grabs the win Wednesday night in the Xfinity race and Thursday night in the Cup Series race. So Keith's on fire right now, and he's definitely he's definitely coming on strong at the right time. That's for sure. Keith is another one. He's fast everywhere we go. Whether it's a road course or an oval, he's always there. He's always in contention. He's always running up front. He's got good short run speed, got good long run speed. Definitely got a long run car. That's what I've noticed out of Keith. Keith will let you go. If you're running him hard, he'll let you go because he knows in 10 laps he's going to get you back. So,
yeah.
That's really cool. He's definitely got a different driving style than a lot of guys out there. And just from studying some of these guys, it's really cool to see that all these different styles. But definitely a lot of good racing going on right now in these chases.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Keith's been fast all season. He had was it the most wins in the Cup Series, like 5 or something like that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been crazy fast all year. I mean, even him, I mean, he's had some bad luck and misfortunes too, and I know he has the bonus points and everything from his wins, but it seems like the races where everything goes smooth, I mean, he's just on fire. Like the Xfinity race we ran at Chicago, I mean, me and you were racing for 4th place, and I think we finished 18 seconds behind him. So it's just, it's been that way for a while. He's just crazy good on the long run.
Yep. Keith leads all drivers right now in the Cup Series with 6 wins. So that's really impressive. Definitely coming on strong. So congratulations, Keith. And we roll into this last round of the chase. The chases here. Well, actually, in the Cup Series, I think we have two. Wait,
two more on Tuesday and 2 more on Wednesday, and then Thursday night we're heading to Dover, and that's the final round of 16.
Yeah, so we're in the Cup Series. We're heading into the last. We got 2 more in the other series. My question is, do you think we'll see a repeat driver again, or do you think we'll see a couple of new winners these coming weeks?
Well, from my own greedy perspective, I hope that I'm a repeat winner in round 1. I don't know. The setup is tough, and especially coming off of turn 4 there, you can get in a lot of trouble really quick. You don't have a lot of time to catch anything or react. It could go bad very quickly.
Real fast, yeah.
There's a lot of guys that are really good there. I don't think anyone has that race in the bag. There's just a ton of crazy fast and consistent guys that, they're going to make it tough for sure.
And I think one of the problems there is too, the faster cars when they approach again, the slower cars. Somebody hits that outside wall, you could have the leader or one of the top 10 coming around a lap down car. They hit that wall. You know how it is at Dover. You don't just hit the wall and stop. You hit the wall, you go down to the bottom, back up to the top, back down to the bottom, and you kind of sweep everybody that's in the way. So, we could end up seeing somebody in the wrong place at the wrong time with that bad luck over them this week.
Yep. The problem with Dover is it's a really, really fast racetrack, and it's a really tight racetrack. And when you have a wreck, that's exactly what happens. It's like the broom, the ever mighty broom that just comes by and just sweeps the whole top 10 away. So that's going to be the thing. Hopefully, everybody can just realize that. I know that's hard to say or grasp, especially when the green flag flies, but to pace yourself and try to just settle in, because starts and restarts are going to be the toughest there. I think once everybody gets a little spread out, it'll be better, but it's going to be tight racing on starts and restarts for sure.
Yeah. One thing I got to say, though, I've noticed the guys have definitely been a lot more patient now that we've gotten into the chases on the starts and even the restarts. Guys have been kind of, I wouldn't say taking it easy going in, but they haven't been full out madmen going in, and it seemed like, they're given a little bit of time for things to kind of, settle in a few laps before, it really turns on, which is kind of good because it's definitely helped keep the cautions down.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely been, especially in the Cup Series. These guys have been just putting on great races, minimal cautions. You run at 145 laps, 1 or 2 cautions, sometimes no cautions. So, it's been a lot of fun to see the strategy start playing out a little bit too in these longer run races and all that. So that makes the crew chief side of you kind of have to come alive too and make some decisions, if you don't have a crew chief, that is. So that's pretty cool to see all that play out, especially in these chase races, because there's a lot of pressure on everybody that's trying to advance to the next round, trying to make it to the end. So really, really cool stuff.
I think that's one thing a lot of people don't know about, like us racing on here, is we're driving, we're trying to listen to the spotter. A lot of us guys are on teams, so we have team channels. We're discussing stuff with those guys. We're the crew chief. we're deciding how much fuel, what tires, all that. It can get crazy. I hate doing it, to be honest. I wish I had a helper, but yeah, I can. I'm sure that's going to become a factor at some point here, and it's going to happen at some high stress moment a last chase round or something like that, that's going to become an issue for some guys.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you think about it, as the chase winds down and you get down to the second to last round, you're having to run so much harder to try to stay advanced to the next round. You can't run above the top 10. You can't you have to run in the top 5 or whatever, and and then make all these decisions on top of that is just it's nerve wracking.
Yeah, these guys
So
that have live spotters definitely have an advantage there, man. Especially, there's a couple of them that have a good relationship already, so they kind of, learn to trust their spotter and their crew chief, and they tell them, listen, we're try this line, we're going in, we're going to take this, we're going to do this with fuel. I got it figured out. Meanwhile, you're driving, you're trying to figure out how much fuel do I need, when should I come in. You don't really have anybody to kind of discuss it with, and at the same time, you're still trying to drive and keep a position or gain a few positions. So it's definitely going to be tough. And like you said, moving into the next round, you want to make it through the next round so you can be one of the 4 for the final rounds. And it's just going to get nuts.
yeah, it certainly is. So, going forward, we'll see what happens. Definitely a lot of exciting stuff so far. So I would imagine as things start, getting more into it towards the middle of these rounds and all that, we're going to have a lot more exciting stuff to talk about here at SoMo. So definitely looking forward to that. Guys, let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit while we still got a little bit of time left and talk a little NASCAR. Um, Chase Elliott was the big story of the week. He was assessed the L1 level penalty for a rule infraction involving a 3-foot piece of tape, and I believe that was across the rear spoiler. And is that right, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a huge deal. Anytime you modify any kind of aero on these cars, mess with body panels or anything like that, obviously a huge penalty infraction for them. It comes at the wrong time too. I would imagine, getting caught with something like that, a regular season race would probably have been the best, but just the way they did it, and the crew chief or the crewman getting caught taking the piece of tape off post race, being caught by the interview camera, it was extremely poor. I mean,
That's
if you're
bad.
gonna cheat, just find a better way to do it, because that's just that's blatantly obvious. And hey, they tried to get away with it, they didn't. And now unfortunately they're going to pay the price for it. But so going forward for Chase Elliott, opinions on the chase? Do you think he's got a chance after this?
Well, let me just say one thing, because I watched the race today, and I'm sure Joe probably might have saw the same thing also. During the race, they went back and showed the tape and the car, and there was not only tape on the spoiler, but there was tape on the corner panels and a couple of different spots on the car. They were saying it wasn't just the one spot that we thought originally up on the spoiler. So these guys really had it figured out. They had a bunch of tape, and they matched the color too. So they even really, I give them credit for trying, but man, what a way to take it off and get busted.
Or well, how did that even happen to begin with? I mean, how did they start the race like that? I mean, so
Sorry.
go ahead.
I wasn't trying to interrupt you, my bad. I guess, well, the one Paul was talking about, I saw it too. I guess it wasn't tape, it was vinyl, like the vinyl wrap that they're using on the car. They added a piece in front of the right rear wheel well, and you could see it was kind of like folded back. They're using vinyl that was the same color of the piece of the body it was attached to hide it. And I guess what was happening, or what happened in that scenario, is they took the car through pre-race inspection without those vinyl strips added, and then after they were added, which I would assume on the way back to or in the garage, and then prior to post-race inspections, they were being taken off,
Trying to take them off, yeah.
but they got caught on camera taking it off. Um, but yeah, I don't know if. Well, I mean, he had a good run today. I think he finished up in the top 10. Um, it doesn't really hurt him this round, I believe. He still has he's kind of comfortably up in the top 12. I think that being their new playoff format, that the points carry through all rounds, um, it's going to hurt. I think it's going to make the next round very difficult for them.
And I was watching the interviews. There's a lot of drivers that were mad about that because there was drivers that felt like they got cheated out of what is it, that the segment race, for the points, and because he was able to get up there and do it. And they were like, I think it was Ryan Newman or something today might have said, he thinks NASCAR really needs to look at that and be a little bit more fair with the penalties. They don't think the penalties are actually enough. They're really trying to, get them, I guess, kind of nailed to the wall on that.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely. I don't know. I mean, I like Chase Elliott. It's kind of sad to see that. I wish they didn't do that. I think Chase Elliott's a good driver, and I think that's a really good team. Obviously, the Hendrick Motorsports. So I don't really think they need to do stuff like that to be fast. I mean, I understand that they'll do anything to try to gain an advantage and an edge, but gosh, put it in the suspension or something like that. Don't hang it off the side of the body.
And don't do it while the camera's on you, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. Junior Motorsports stable of drivers trying to get Dale Jr. A championship for his team in the Xfinity Series. William Byron, Justin Allgaier, Elliott Sadler, and Michael Annett make up the four drivers. Byron, Allgaier, and Sadler are actually starting to chase 1, 2, 3, which is really cool. That definitely gives Junior Motorsports an advantage towards trying to capture a title. Hopefully, one of the three can pull it off. Um, it's really cool to see Junior Motorsports come together like that. They've always been a competitive team since they've started, and obviously under the operation of Hendrick Motorsports, they have top tier equipment, so they're not lacking at all there. In my opinion, I think they'll probably do it this year. I mean, they have a bunch of good drivers this year, Sadler included. I was never an Elliott Sadler fan in the Cup Series, but I think he runs very well where he's at, and I think he's got a good chance this year. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
I mean, I would have to pick Elliott Sadler as the favorite. He's in, he's a great driver. He's in really good equipment, and he has the experience. He's been there for a while. He's kind of been in those high pressure situations before. A lot of the younger guys haven't. I think we're going to see some nerves and some mistakes from the younger guys. Um, Also, I want to say I'm very surprised that Elliott won the regular season championship without a win. That's pretty impressive, and it shows how consistent he was over the course of the season. But to win the championship, I feel like he's going to have to win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I do too. Especially when it gets down to the last, few remaining races. I think he could probably use the consistency card to get him to, to towards the end of the chase races, but definitely going to have to score a win. Hopefully the win would come at Miami, but we'll see what happens. But definitely a bunch of good guys. Justin Allgaier, obviously, he's been in it for a while. William Byron, fairly new. Michael Annett, obviously he's, he's not. I mean, I don't want to say they're not the greatest drivers, but there's a lot less. There's a lot more inexperience there than with Elliott Sadler. So, but all in all, I think Junior Motorsports has a really good chance this year of showing some heat in the chase and coming on strong. Another big story this week: Casey Kane will drive for the Levine Family Racing number 95 in 2018. Um, it also said that he was an 18-time Monster Energy Series Cup winner. I stared at that number for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, he's only won 18 times. But I guess we all have to remember that a lot of his wins came early in his career, which is a long time ago now. So, really glad to see Casey move on in the Cup Series. I don't know. I like Casey Kane a lot. I don't know if this is going to be the best move for him. Maybe a change is what he needs. But I mean, Casey was running in top tier equipment, and he wasn't performing. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does with this team, not being a top tier Cup team. He may surprise us. You never know. I wish Casey the best though, because I like Casey a lot, and I want to see him do good. And obviously, the number 95 team would also probably benefit greatly from having Casey in the car. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversy about that. There was guys saying it's a step back for Casey, and not really liking it. But I look at it this way: he might not have had a ride if he didn't sign on with them. At least he has a ride. Maybe by bringing a name like Casey to them will get them more sponsorship and a chance for more better equipment, more tires. Maybe open up a few more things for them. And, you got to go back to Furniture Row. Look when Kurt Busch went with them. Kurt Busch started bringing them on the board. Excuse me. And then, now Martin Truex. And, look at how much of a powerhouse organization they're becoming. So, you never know. And this change with Casey Kane going to them might be what he needs to, get that hunger back and concentrate on getting back up to the front.
Yeah, I think too that this situation, it reminds me a lot of the Clint Bowyer deal. After leaving Michael Waltrip Racing, he had to go for the small single car team. He struggled really bad, but now he's at Stewart Haas. But I think those guys in that position, I mean, there's not a lot of top tier rides open, so you have to take what's available to just stay in the sport, basically. And I think just do the best you can, make the best of the situation, and hope another door opens in the future. Because I mean, you never know. So much crazy stuff has happened this year. I don't even try to predict what might change.
Or even. I was going to say, or even just, elevate this 95 Levine Family Racing to a higher ground. Like I said, opening up more sponsorship, bringing in more money for them will give them a lot more opportunity to get better equipment, So it could go either way. I'm hoping for the best because I like Casey Kane, and I'd like to see it work out for him. And, I listen to both sides of it, and I hear both sides. I just tend to lean more towards, the sponsorship side. Just sponsors to stick with Casey Kane like at Hendrick would probably cost them a couple million, where, that same sponsor may be able to still sponsor with Casey Kane over here at the Levine family for, a third of the price, a half of that price. So, there's some benefits to it that way.
I think the fairy tale story with that would be that becoming something like what happened with Furniture Row. Casey going out there, running the car, in the top 10 and, generating some revenue for those guys and getting them on their feet. I think that would be the best thing, that could possibly happen for that team and him right now. Possibly could get him into a better ride down the road. Possibly could get the team going and head in the right direction where they're, in contention for wins and all that too.
I hope he wins a plate race next year, makes everybody mad and locks himself into the playoffs.
Right. So, Danica, quote, "If I do not race Cup, I don't think I'll do anything, unquote. I'm going to go out on a limb and say she probably isn't going to do anything.
Peace
Joe,
out.
I was gonna say Joey's not gonna feel too bad.
See ya.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who would pick up Danica. I think there's a lot of other Cup drivers that are. I'm not going to talk trash about her, but there's probably a lot of other Cup drivers that are probably more capable and willing to step into a ride and you know drive it well compared to what she could do on the racetrack. So you know, it's I think it's just time. You know, it's time to move on.
I, I just think all the times over the last 2, 3 seasons, I've heard Mike Joy's voice in my nightmares say, "Caution, Danica Patrick."
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, all in all, pretty good. Guys, I don't know if we should be, I don't think we should get anything else right now, but I guess let's talk about some SoMo coming up this week, Paul, see what's going on.
Yeah, we have this week Chase race number 2 in the Portside Jaguar Land Rover Truck Series. That's going to be at Las Vegas for 125 laps. And we got 12 drivers in that round of 12. And there'll be one more race after that, and we'll move on to the round of 8. Wednesday night, the Lazy Days Racing Xfinity Series will go to Chase race number 2 at Dover for 135 laps. And same thing, 12 drivers are in that. And, you know, we'll see who's going to advance. There'll be one more race after that. And Tuesday night, that'll be right here on SR Broadcasting at 8:45. Wednesday night will be right here on SR Broadcasting at 8:45. And then Thursday night, the final round of 16, race number 3. And that's at Dover. That's going to be for 145 laps. 16 drivers are in, and 4 drivers are not going to step out. So that's going to be a pretty tough race, and that's going to be right here on PBR Broadcasting at 8:45. So, you know, we'll have to stick around and see. What'd you say, Joe?
Oh no, PBR Broadcasting. I'm sorry.
What'd I say?
Brain fart.
Did I say?
No.
You said that.
You're good.
Yeah.
Now I would call you know, because we do have Talladega coming up still. I would still call Dover a wild card race too, because that's a race that can go sour really quick for a lot of guys. So
The big one.
yeah, and so that's going to definitely be a race to tune into Thursday night. That's going to be interesting to see the guys that aren't locked in, how they fare getting through that race and moving on and trying to advance to the next round. So definitely going to be some interesting and fun, exciting races coming up this week. Guys, as always, it was a great show tonight, and appreciate everybody, and looking forward to next week.
Yeah, definitely going to be fun. Hopefully we got some good stuff to talk about. Next week we will have a special guest, Mr. Joe White, the owner of OSRnetwork.com, and he'll be here talking about the broadcasting side of things. We're going to try to, you know, incorporate a little bit more of the iRacing community into the garage. And then Monday night, also tomorrow night, GAC, the 360 dirt sprint cars at USA, be right here on SR Broadcasting at 8:45. So tune in, and we'll see you then.
Have a great night, guys.